grabs hold to, especially when it comes to the celebration of church and the celebration of the years that God has kept you. In Matthew's Gospel, the 16th chapter, verse number 13, in the King James Version, you will find these words. For that you're standing to stand, please stand. Please stand. We obey the order of the house. 16th chapter, verse number 13. It reads as thus. When Jesus came into the coast of Caesarea Philippi, he asked his disciples, saying, whom do men say that I, the Son of Man, am? And they said, some say that thou art John the Baptist, some Elias, and others Jeremiah, are one of the prophets. He said unto them, but whom say you that I am? Simon Peter answered and said, thou art the Christ, the Son of the living God. And Jesus answered and said unto him, blessed art thou, Simon Bar-Jonah, for flesh and blood hath not revealed this unto thee, but my Father which is in heaven. And I say also unto thee that thou art Peter, and upon this rock I will build my church, and the gates of hell shall not prevail against it, and I will give unto thee the keys of the kingdom of heaven. And whatsoever thou shalt bind on earth shall be bound in heaven, and whatsoever thou shalt loose on earth shall be loosed in heaven. Before you sit down, look at your neighbor and tell your neighbor, the preacher want to talk about from the subject. The keys still work.
Still work.
You may be seated. The keys still work. When I look at the history of your church here and realize that you started out in 1936, 76 years ago, as I think back in time, in 1936, my father was born in the month of November. When I look back 76 years ago, my aunts and them were little kids. They were little tykes. They were little infants in the arms of my grandmother and my grandfather. When I think about my father being born in 1936, I can't even comprehend that because I was not born to 58. And in the midst of that, when you started your church, it was during a time when Jesse Owens had upset the whole world. I know many of you don't know that, but let me take you on a little black history lesson because you are in the Black History Hospital, and the only black hospital is here in the state of New Jersey and in the city of Newark. So you are in a historic place. But in 1935, back then, 76 years ago, Jesse Owens in the Olympics set 3 world records and tied the number 1 in the Big Ten track and field championships. He set a world record in the long jump, 220-yard dash, the 220-yard low hurdles, and tied the world record in the 100-yard dash. And he did all this within a 45-minute span. And him didn't know that Jesse upset the world. Jesse made it so worse than he upset people of the lighter hue so bad that Hitler didn't want him to run in the games. He upset the world so bad. But then also another challenge was in the same year, Babe Ruth, the one who Hank Aaron broke his record for home runs in a year, retired from baseball. And in the midst of that happening, it was a Salem group of people that were coming together to start the Salem Baptist Church. And see, when you don't know your history, you can't appreciate your present, and you can't look forward to the future. Every church around here had to start from somewhere. It doesn't matter whether you were there, whether you showed up, but you were part of the plan when they started back in 1935. Y'all don't want to talk back to me, but I'm going to get you happy anyway after a while. And what happens is when you come along, it doesn't matter when you come along, but in 45 minutes, Jesse had upset the track and field world upside down. And in 76 years, because you are still here, that means you have made an impact somewhere in somebody's life. Even those that have passed on have left some legacy behind. And those that are here presently are in the history, in the process of making history. And then you're setting the stage for them that come after you. And you can't say they want good people. Why? Because you're still here. And the Bible said that a good person leaves an inheritance for their children's children. And somebody can identify that mama was here, big mama was here, big daddy was here. And down through the years when people came and went, God always had a remnant that stayed. The keys still work. I just want you to know when they came down from Caesarea Philippi, you know what that said. That's somewhere over there in the what we call the Holy Land. But when you think about Caesarea Philippi, and when you look at things, you realize that it was only 25 miles north of the Sea of Galilee and at the base of Mount Hermon. Caesarea Philippi is the location of one of the largest springs feeding the Jordan River. And it's amazing how the abundant water supply made the area very fertile and attractive for religious worship. The historians say that numerous temples were built at this city in the Hellenistic and Roman periods. And you may not understand, but people don't want to worship where there's no water. Y'all don't want to talk back to me. When you're going through a storm, you need to know that some water is coming. You need to know that something's going. Anybody ever been dried out on a hot day and your Budweiser wouldn't get it? Y'all don't want to talk back to me. And you say it's nothing like a good cold glass of water. And see, when you're going through a storm, you got to understand, Jesus said, out of your belly shall flow rivers of living water. And I teach a new psalmist, don't never be on a bench or in a row where the river ain't flowing. But see, if you're in a dry place, you're going to dry right up. You're going to burn right out. And even when you got too hot, you want a little water to come and sprinkle you down. Do I have any witnesses in here? When you get overheated, those of you that are cooked, you know how when you take that turkey out the oven and you don't want it to cook too quickly, you put a little water on it. And those that know how to barbecue, you know you put a little water over the coal. And that's what God does. Every once in a while when you're getting too hot, he don't want you to burn out. He'll put a little sprinkle of the word of the water all over you just so you can run the pace that he wants you to run so you don't burn out. So it was here, Pastor Mike, that Jesus sits down with his little homies. You know he had 12 of them. And he wanted to know, who do men say that I am? And the people had heard the rumors. You know, just like they heard the rumors about you. If I go to your family reunion and I ask them, who are you? They'll tell me your nickname. They'll tell me your little falls. They'll tell me where you fell at. They'll tell me when you got up at. They'll tell me when you had your first encounter. They'll tell me when you got your first time drunk. They'll tell me the first time you threw up. They told me the time you came to church and when you ain't been back to church and then you just showed up because it's church anniversary. They'll tell me everything. So here it is, Jesus is only a few years and he's sitting there and he wants to know, who do men say that I am? So some of them say, well, you know, you may be Elijah. Some say you are John the Baptist. And isn't it amazing how my church, you know, we always talk about don't miss the shift. Isn't it amazing how, can I talk just a little while? I got 10 minutes. Isn't it amazing how in John the Baptist missed the shift? How do you go from being part of the founding family of New Salem, and then New Salem, and then can go back and talk about it when you're part of the family? You can't go back. So isn't it amazing that John could talk about Jesus being someone coming greater than I am, whose shoes I'm not even worthy to unlash, but because he was not included in this homeboy, because Jesus had another hood, because Jesus chose other disciples and not his little cousin John, with his big cousin John. And John thought because he was 6 months older, he had a little authority over Jesus. That how you go from saying I'm not worthy to unlatch his shoes, and then later on, are you the one to shoe we look for another? And a whole lot of us are like that with God. As long as we get our way with him, he's the greatest thing since ever. And the minute he decides to shift And we missed the shift. Now we get an attitude. Why you don't come back to church no more? Because they hurt my feelings. Nobody here to make your feelings feel good. If you have to come in with a good feeling, this ain't no happy feeling place. This is a place of resurrection. This is a place of restoration. Whatever you bind on earth shall be bound in heaven. Whatever you do, this ain't about your feelings. All right. Let me tell you, I don't like to go to the doctor, and I don't never feel good when I come out of there. But if I feel bad enough, I go right back to it. That's right. Amen. I'm sure women don't like having babies, but you have more than one. Oh, y'all don't want to talk back to me. Y'all get my point to get on out of here before I get in trouble. So they go down through this. They go down through this litany of people. One of the prophets. And you know, Peter, Simon at the time, Peter was a fisherman. You know, every once in a while, God had to reveal stuff through customs. That's right. Customs. Yeah, customs. People that cuss you off. What am I doing? A doctoral dissertation? What is this? Is this the seminary? No, this the church. I'm living on West King Street. The last I looked, I believe this was down the hill. I believe I used to get high right around the corner. I believe they said a law walk by on this corner. And y'all gonna sit here and act cute with me because I said customs? He was a fisherman. So he was a customer. Most fishermen fuck. Let me help you in case y'all have been fishing lately. When you hook that thing down there, and you know you got a big one and that big one get away. Wives kept most fishermen wives cuss too. Peter was a customer. He was a switchblade carrier. That's right. Yes, there it is. Peter was rough and rugged. Yes. Because anybody know anything about biblical history know that they thought Jesus had an ignorant bunch. And I'm sure when they started this church, they thought they were ignorant. Talking about they're going to start a church in the midst of racism, in the midst of all these Jewish synagogues, in the midst of Newark, and then stay down here after the 67 riots. That's right. All right. That's right. When Springfield Avenue burnt and when Clinton Avenue was on fire. Yes. Yeah. Wow. And still talking about God as a good God. Yeah. When the state troopers rolled through here and the National Guard came with guns through your neighborhood and told you get back in your house where you paid mortgage at, where you paid rent at, where you got set and told you don't come outside like they own the streets. But I still believe that the keys still work, that the earth is the Lord and the fullness thereof, and they that dwell therein. And here it is, if they could have took you out, you would have been gone a long time ago. If they could have took you out, you would have never worked at GM, you would have never worked at the Crocker factory, you would have never, they would have kept you in the kitchens. But somebody believed God. So here it is, they have this conversation. I got 7.5 minutes left. And they have this conversation. And Jesus asked him, well, who do you say that I am? And Peter busts out and said, you know what? You are the anointed one. You are the Christ, the Son of the living God. And Jesus said him straight before he got sedity, before he got real grand, because you know how you get 1 or 2 Bible verses and you speak your chest out? And you know the books of the Bible, but you can't say them backwards, so you don't really know them. Just like you know the alphabet, but I will tell you go from the Z, Y, and all the way back. You'll mess up, but you know the alphabet, and half of you 50, 60 years old, and you still got to sing that song. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, P, Q, R, S, T, U, N, Z, W, X, Y, Z. Oh, you know, now that I said my ABC, tell me what you think of me. Yeah. And you know, when you get in a K, the same thing. I told my church today, you still talking about now lay me down to sleep. I pray the Lord my soul to keep it. I should die before I wake. I pray the Lord my soul to take. But see, that message didn't change because you can only say God bless mommy, and most people don't know who daddy is. So they, I don't want to come back to that. So that prayer done changed over the years. Yes, sir. So he talks with Peter, and Peter says boldly that, you know, you're Christ, you're the anointed one, you're the Son of the living God. And Jesus sets him straight and said, listen here, little brother. You didn't know that. My Father had to reveal that unto you. But based on your confession of who I am, upon your confession, I'll build my church. And no matter what comes against it, the gates of hell cannot come against it. And I give you the keys to heaven. I give you the keys to the kingdom. Whatever you shall bind on earth shall be bound in heaven. And whatever you shall loose on earth shall be loosed in heaven. And see, I say this to my church, but I ain't going to say it here. But I say, I'm a little bilingual.